to sell. Now it's time for a message from today's sponsor.
Hey, did you hear about what's happening with cookies? See, starting this year, Google is getting rid of third-party cookies forever. They've already started. What are you gonna do when all the cookies are gone? What the? Holy son of a flying cat. They know SEO.
Live from Chicago, it's Chris Sells His Soul. I'm your host, Chris Bogue, and this is my show where I have conversations with cool people who will help you work more creatively. Today, my guest is Liam Moroney. Liam, please say hello and let my audience know where they can find you.
Hello, my name is Liam. I am equal parts delighted to be here and offended by that intro, but probably like 51% delighted. I am a B2B marketer based out of New York. I have been in the tech space for a long time, so I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us today. Our episode is called Dude, Where's My Followers? And today's episode is brought to you by Flying Cat. So Flying Cat is the premier international content and SEO agency. We are going to be seeing some lovely materials from them later on in the show. But yeah, if you need more SEO in your life and you want a cool team that's 90% women across 15 different countries creating your campaigns for you, especially if you want to scale into Europe, check out Flying Cat. So we'll be hearing from them. But you also might be wondering who I am. So my name is Chris Bogue. I am a video coach and sketch comedian and entrepreneur living in Chicago. And I specify in mercifully short video. Sometimes that video is for sales, for video prospecting. Sometimes it's for marketers and entrepreneurs for video content. But it's all short. It's all designed to be fun and interactive and put yourself out there as the best version of yourself. So welcome to the show. We're going to be getting into what happened with the algorithm, how we should feel about it, what we think is going on, what we're doing to cope with it. These are all things we're going to be discussing today. But before I ask Liam anything, I want to hear from you, audience. So if you are watching this live on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever you watch this from, go ahead and jump into the comments. If you have noticed your organic reach drop within the last few months, go ahead and tell us about it. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you've been having amazing organic reach on your content. We want to hear from you. So jump into the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And we're just going to get right to it now. So Liam, thanks for coming on. I know you. I feel like you're one of those people who I met on LinkedIn, and I feel like I know you, even though I don't actually know you, because I've watched your videos and they're very you. And could you just give us the quick rundown of who are you? What kind of marketing do you do? And yeah, we'll just start there.
Sure. I am the co-founder of a demand generation agency, which is called Storybook Marketing. And I run that with my business partner, Grace Ann McDonald, who we are regularly back and forth on LinkedIn. I am a B2B marketer. I have been in the startup tech space for about 15 years. I come from a very marketing background. I am a traditional marketer. I went to school for marketing. I love marketing. I think too much about marketing. And I have been through the ringer of numerous companies in the tech space.
Excellent. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one because I feel like marketing and comedy have a lot in common in that everyone thinks they can do it. Everybody just looks at it and is like, oh, I could do that. Everybody who does it tends to think their stuff is amazing. And they're always very judgmental about the people that they don't think are doing it as well as them. So yeah. What kind of marketing do you specialize in? And let's start before we start shitting all over the bullshit marketing, which we're gonna do, right? We got Owen in here, right? And he says, talk about the vanity metrics. We're gonna, okay? We've got David in here. We've got Doug. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. But yeah, everybody likes to talk smack about LinkedIn. Everybody likes to talk smack about marketing, ebooks, uh, paid ads. They're all terrible. So why don't you start by just telling us what is good marketing?
So I would describe myself as like a marketing traditionalist. Like I went to school for it because I really liked it, and then I don't want to say I lost my way when I went into B2B, but I feel like I got deprogrammed a little bit. But I stick to the root of what marketing is supposed to be. It is a way of getting awareness for your brand. It is for getting people to understand what you do, who you do it for, and why you do it better than other people. And the best way of doing that is by actually winning people over with an idea as opposed to tricking people into downloading something, going through motion, getting in front of a salesperson. Marketing is about education, and entertainment is a really effective way of doing that.
Okay, so what is going on these days then in 2024? Because I see here's the big trends that I see happening. One, especially on LinkedIn, you've got your edutainment, and God bless it, because I enjoy doing that. That's a lot of fun for me. I have discovered this whole second life as a comedic writer because it's just a very useful way to explore pain points and concepts. And I operate on the Sesame Street principle, which is you need to get someone's attention if you want to teach them, which is why anybody who's seen my stuff, it's madness and there's a lot of silliness in there. There's almost always a more serious point at the core of it. So I see that, and now it's a lot of influencers. I see influencers everywhere, and I see communities everywhere. Everybody today is launching a community. Whether you're an individual, whether you're a B2B SaaS company, it seems everybody has a community. You hear about Nearbound and network-based marketing strategies. So what do you think is happening? And I don't know. Is that good marketing?
I mean, I think it is good marketing. I think B2B marketing has a long-standing history of people thinking it's like the ugly stepchild of marketing. It's the boring one. You can't be as much fun as you can be in consumer marketing. And I think, firstly, that is being proven by a lot of companies and by people like you that is not true. And I think there's a cliche that I think everybody knows, but that B2B marketing it's not business to business, it's people to people. It always has been. The biggest difference between B2B marketing and B2C marketing is that you have a much more one-to-one connection with the people that you're selling to and buying from. Like, you can see them. They're not like personas on a chart where you're selling to 30 million people. You're selling to 20,000 people, and you know them at a different level. And I think the problem is that for a long time, it was led by this whole, you have to be serious. People suddenly are different when they're buying on behalf of a company. And I think COVID kind of upended a lot of that, because suddenly it went from shiny offices to now you were looking into people's bedrooms and their living rooms and their homes. And I think there was a lot more connection. And I think because we couldn't network at events for a long time, we all started to kind of form these online communities. LinkedIn definitely exploded over that time. And I think there's a lot more sort of human connection that maybe we were craving when we were in lockdown, but has not gone away, like, at all. I think that this whole, like, I want to know the people at a company, and I'm talking very much at a startup level. It's much more important in the startup world than it is in giant enterprise. But I think the humanizing of B2B marketing it's in vogue.
Yeah, and sometimes I take issue with the serious marketing too, because again, it all kind of seems like bullshit sometimes, and even like this is probably just me ranting about my own problems too much. But let's talk about like Meta, Facebook, right? People told me, hey, if you're running a business, don't count Facebook out. People still use it. There's still dedicated people there. You can still drive revenue through Facebook. Show some effort on Facebook. So I did, right? I've got content going. I've got my stuff streaming there. I just lost access to my Facebook months ago, and I'm never getting it back. Like literally, I have sent over 20 help requests to the company. I have friended former people there who have existing connections in Facebook. I'm trying to get them to help me, and nobody can. And everybody I talk to who runs a business, that's just, you can't get Facebook to do anything for you anymore because they're too big and important to deal with human beings anymore. And they're building like virtual tennis courts for the metaverse that nobody wants and nobody's going to use, but that's serious, and it's like, I don't know. I look at stuff like Twitter and Facebook, and like those were the dream companies. And it looks like what they're doing is stupidity a lot of the time. And I don't know what it is about B2B. I think it is because I grew up playing for small rooms. I cut my teeth playing at small comedy clubs, doing improv in these small, intimate settings where you're taking suggestions from people and you're making them part of the show. And I see something very kind of earnest about B2B sometimes. And you're right. It is people a lot closer than you see in other forms of marketing. And yeah, I don't even know where I'm kind of going with that. But, I don't know.
I think you're right, though. I mean, I started my career in, like, before I came into tech, very small companies where it was in the sort of food distribution industry, where all of it happened at trade shows. There were people that you went out for meals with. It was all very much like individual connections with people. And then I think a lot of the time, like the digital marketing part of where B2B marketing is where it often went wrong. And it's because it went to, let's make this a science. And now I can trust AI to target my audience. I know where they can be. I can find intense signals that will tell me when they're ready to buy. And that is about the most dehumanizing thing you can possibly do. And the people who take a marketing track of, it's data driven, I'm going to rely only on technology, everything is about the metrics, you very quickly lose the entire point of what you're trying to do, which is get people's attention, keep their attention, communicate a message, and get them to remember that message. That does not happen in the midst of scaled AI, sort of like faceless, inhuman marketing.
Got some interesting things here. So David had said it all comes down to ROI. Apparently not. And yeah, this is a tricky thing as somebody. So I was not born a marketer. I did not go. I guess I was a public relations major in college, which actually makes a lot of sense because, like, yeah, a lot of my strategy involves how do I get people talking about me? How do I get people talking about what I do? How do I create an experience that people want to be involved in? And, again, I was an improviser. And if you've ever been to a great improv show, or you've ever been to a show where, someone's trying to tell you what happened at an improv show, they can't remember it. They'll be like, oh, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I can't tell you like a single thing they did. And like, yeah, that's kind of what I go for in marketing. And it's tough for me because I will try to replicate the things I will see marketers on LinkedIn talk about. And it never works as well for me. Whereas when I try to take aspects of my training as a performer, and I think like, how can I show up in an unexpected way, doing something that gets people involved, and how can we create this like one of a kind experience? Those are the ones that take off. Those are the ones where every once in a while I will just knock it out of the park and I'll blow up and everybody and their grandmother sees it. But it's difficult to figure out how much time I should spend on those because, yeah, if I took LinkedIn's advice, I would just have AI do everything for me and I wouldn't spend any time working on anything creative at all.
And there's an extreme other side of that too, where you can be too removed from the point of what you're trying to do. And that happened in content marketing for a long time. I worked for a content marketing platform. And that was about like 9 years ago, where content marketing was just coming into its own. And the concept was really novel. The idea was we're all sick of banner ads. Nobody looks at these display ads anymore. And the better use for your budget would be, instead of trying to pull people into a sales conversation, why not give away value and make them like you? And that will be a much more effective way of doing it, which I still stand by. And I love content marketing. I remember one of the biggest lessons I ever learned while I was at that company was we had a blog that had hundreds of thousands of visitors every single month. We had a newsletter that had 250,000 marketers on it, and people loved our blog. And for good reason, it was a great blog. And then one day, there was my job at one point, I was introduced to new employees. We had a new employee on the engineering side, and I remember asking her, like, oh, hey, how did you hear about us? And she said, oh, I was a subscriber to your blog for like a year, and I didn't even know you were a software company. And then when I found out you were, I applied. And I was like, oh, so we did such a good job entertaining you. We forgot to tell you what we did and then completely missed the point. So you can go completely wrong in the other direction, where you can just entertain for the sake of getting attention. But if you don't have a clear pathway back to, and I'm telling you this because I do this, because our company does this, because this is our value, you can miss the mark as well. Like, and this is the whole point of, I think, LinkedIn. Reach and engagement isn't necessarily the be all and end all if you're not connecting with the right people about the right message.
Well, yeah, that's interesting too, because like, I guess I don't want to offend any potential sponsors we might have in the future. So let's just say I've got a company named Shoom Info, I don't really think of that as a place I'm going to for human connections. And really the appeal of theirs is like, you can go buy information from us. And that's fine. That's an important part of business, but I don't know. I guess sometimes I don't really see that link between like what the company is doing and what they're putting out there to get attention. And, maybe people don't see that about me either. I sometimes, I say a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, but I think sometimes at the end of it, they don't know what I do, or maybe they're entertained and, I didn't get any information across about what I'm selling, but I'm not always trying to do that. I do actually kind of want to maintain the element of surprise. And, oftentimes my funniest sketches are because I am burying a point in there, and I always get conflicting signals from the algorithm, whether or not that's a good idea.
Yeah, there's a big difference between what's popular with the algorithm and what resonated with your audience. And it's very hard to spot between those gaps because they can be completely different and they can be completely the same. It really depends.
Yeah. Well, how do you think about that then? Because the challenge for me and the thing I've learned over, doing this for a few years is like, I know what the important parts of my lessons are. And like, there's a reason why when someone hires me to teach them video prospecting for sales, we do a lot of work on just how to look at the camera and how to talk to the camera and how to sit. Like, I spend so much time on the relationship with the camera, and it's so important to what I do. But I had to learn the people who are buying my services don't think about it that way, and and sometimes I need to package these things in a more conventional kind of package, because they need to know that it is safe to invest in something like this, and once they're in, I'm going to have all sorts of unexpected surprises for them in the journey. But yeah, for me, it has been a challenge of being like, I know how much X and Y and Z mean to what I'm doing, but I'm selling to an audience who needs to see A, B, and C to determine something is safe. So I've got to sometimes like borrow the things that are natural to them if I want to get them into this absurd sketch comedy paradigm I've created for all my stuff, Oh, and this is Kevin chimed in. Kevin did one of my video cohorts. So hilarious guy. Kevin was one of those guys too, who, I never knew him. He just signed up for the cohort. And then as soon as he submitted the first video, I'm like, oh, this guy's hilarious. And yeah, there are hilarious and talented people all over LinkedIn. And most of them aren't doing anything. They're not putting themselves out there. And I can get them to do that. But sometimes I have to kind of go this roundabout way and kind of make a more conventional B2B pitch to kind of get them to see the value of why they would want to do that. We're going to be getting into this second half shortly now. We're going to be talking about the plunge, right? Sometime around September, everybody on all platforms that I talk to, at least LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, you've seen a surge of users noticing that their organic reach has plummeted. Their impressions are down. This is not just something that's been happening on LinkedIn. It's been happening everywhere. So we're going to get into that in the second half. But Liam, before we do that, do you want to do Gimme Gimme?
I do want to do Gimme Gimme.
Okay, let's do Gimme Gimme. All right. So everybody, this is the part of the show where I like to correct a little bit of misinformation that I've seen swirling around out there on LinkedIn. Some people say, hey, the whole point of LinkedIn is to have fun, right? You're just here to make friends, selflessly give all your knowledge away and never ask for anything in return. And we all know that's not actually the reason why LinkedIn was created, right? LinkedIn was created to make money. That's right. It's the only social network that was designed specifically so people could get new jobs, people could get new opportunities, people could hire better employees, people could put their resumes out there and get new high-paying opportunities. So what we like to do once every episode is I like to pop into character, and my guests and I like to ask my audience for exactly what it is that we want from them. So Liam, you ready to do Gimme Gimme?
I'm ready to do Gimme Gimme.
All right, let's do it. Hello! Welcome to Gimme Gimme, the part of the show where I ask you for money. Today's show is brought to you by Flying Cat. You all know Flying Cat. They are the premier SEO and content agency that helps you build B2B SaaS company or B2B organic growth programs. All right, and remember, this is a team that's 90% women from 15 different countries. Women, the people that are responsible for 80% of all financial decisions. Yeah, maybe you should have some of them creating your content instead of a bunch of AI bots using bullshit data from 2022. Okay? Especially if you are looking to scale your B2B SaaS company in Europe, Flying Cat helps you with a demand gen and demand capture full funnel approach that reduces customer acquisition costs through organic marketing. Okay? They've got native language strategists and content creators from all over the world, including US, UK, Canada, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Brazil, and Germany. All right, they are helping companies increase their organic search conversion rates by up to 50% in 90 days. All right, so they are today's sponsor. Go check them out. I don't like doing SEO. That's why I'm out here plugging for Flying Cat. And if you don't know what SEO is, that's fine. Go give Flying Cat a call. They're amazing. You probably have no business doing it anyway. Liam, it's Gimme Gimme time. My audience is here. It's LinkedIn, so you know that they have money. Go ahead and ask them for whatever it is that you want.
If you are a tech company and you want a marketing partner and you're in the B2B SaaS space, please come to Storybook Marketing. If you're not, and if you're still a marketer, follow me on LinkedIn because my engagement is plummeting.
Yeah, do that. He's a guy who actually knows how to write. He actually knows how to make interesting things, okay? Have you ever seen this man's videos? He pulls you into a wonderful Narnia-esque fantasy world, okay? And he just sits there drinking coffee, and it's somehow enchanting and mesmerizing, okay? Go ahead, follow LinkedIn, follow Liam on LinkedIn. You can go ahead, take out your phone. I'll give you a minute. Take it out, switch to camera mode, line it up there, scan the QR code, go ahead and follow him. And while you're doing that, why don't you go ahead and follow me too? That's right. So it's me, your host, Chris Bogue, and I've got a fantastic new announcement. So I've been very greedy these past couple of years. Liam, you know it's true. I've been a greedy man.
It's true.
I've been out here having so much fun with brilliant content creators for years. And everybody keeps telling me, Chris, why don't I get to go up there and be funny too? And I tell them, it's not your turn yet. Well, that's all going to change. I have a special announcement today. I am announcing a brand new show that is premiering next Friday. And you at home, you watching at home, you've got the chance to sign up, right? All you need to do is leave a comment here on this post. I'm announcing the new show, Death by PowerPoint, okay? We are going to be playing PowerPoint karaoke. There's going to be a brand new improv-based show. I've got LinkedIn's funniest content creators lined up, but we are looking for mystery guests, right? We need mystery guests, and most importantly, we need sponsors, right? We already have 2 sponsors lined up for the new season, and it's going to be incredible, okay? You don't only get the live event, you get all the promo teasers, you get the written content. I have a whole multi-tiered strategy where I'm hitting my audience from 10 different angles. Every single episode, we've got short form, long form, text posts, polls, live events, comedy, serious, you name it. So this is going to be an amazing show. I'm currently meeting with people for a sponsorship. Again, we've got 1 sponsorship role left, so reach out to me if your company is interested in taking part. We are going to watch that clip in just a moment, but before we do, Liam, do you have anything else that you want to ask my audience for?
I want them to follow that. That was amazing. Yeah. I'm bought in.
Go ahead. Well, we're going to take a look at that sneak peek right now. We're going to hear one more word from our sponsor. Iggy, roll the tape.
My name is Jen Allen Knuth, and I am about to give a PowerPoint presentation I have never seen before.
I'm Rob Jones, and I'm about to give a PowerPoint presentation on a slide deck that I've never seen before in my life.
Oh, they should put me in there. I'd be so funny. Oh.
I can sell my B2B SaaS product anywhere in the world. Maybe I should start selling in Europe. Not so fast, Jimmy. Have you ever run a European marketing campaign before? No? Gosh, I guess not. Can you write fluently in multiple languages? No, just the one. Do you know anything about regulations in Europe? Well, maybe I could just have my team bullshit their way through it. Sound familiar? Hello, my name is Dr. Funkenstein. You know, when I need medical advice, I ask a doctor, but when I need SEO advice, I ask Flying Cat Marketing. Flying Cat is the world leader in customized local SEO and marketing campaigns. They have a team of native language marketing experts spanning across 15 different countries to build fully local campaigns to create and capture demand and increase organic search conversions for your business. Wow, Dr. Funkenstein. I reached out to Flying Cat just like you said, and they were super easy to work with. How can I ever repay you? Don't worry, Jimmy. I'll be reaching out to you for a personal favor very soon. What? Don't ask your doctor if SEO is right for your business. Get started with your free consultation at flyingcatmarketing.com.
And we're back.
That was so good.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're talking a little bit about the algorithm. We're talking about content creation. We're talking about marketing. If anybody is just joining us live, my guest here today is Liam Moroney from Storybook Marketing. And we're about to dig into something that people have noticed. So this is, if anybody follows Richard Vanderblom, he is a popular LinkedIn content creator. His company is focused solely on studying the LinkedIn algorithm. And this year, he confirmed what many of us suspected, which is sometime around September, LinkedIn changed their algorithm. And unless you have a top creator badge from LinkedIn, you saw your organic reach plummet by about 50%. So LinkedIn just kind of adjusted things. So if you are not a LinkedIn top creator, your reach was basically cut in half. And if you are a top creator, your reach increased. So this is a thing that people have been griping about on LinkedIn for a while. And I have a lot of creator friends who are not just on LinkedIn, they're on YouTube, they're on TikTok. And this is something that people have seen all throughout last year. Lots of creators who were doing very well for themselves. Maybe they were getting millions of views. Now they're getting hundreds of thousands of views. You know, if you were getting tens of thousands of views, maybe it's only a few thousand or a few hundred. Liam, how did you react to this? How did your clients react to this? Does this matter to you? Does this not matter to you? Like, tell me what you think about what happened in a creature.
I'll give you my personal experience of it, because I started creating, I guess, on LinkedIn probably about 4 years ago. I probably got really serious about it about 2 years ago. And I was kind of enjoying like the gold rush era of the algorithm, where it was comically easy to get hundreds of thousands of views. Like, I mean, I was seeing 1 million impressions a month, which in hindsight, given what I was posting about, was probably not worth it. Like, I wasn't deserving of any of that. It was just really easy because I think there were very few people on there. And I think part of it, at least in my experience, is that like every organic channel starts off heavily rewarding creators because there are fewer of them. And then as more people get involved, it gets more competitive. The reach goes down because now you're sharing that attention with other people. But the algorithm is also, at least in theory, getting better at serving your content to the right people and not serving it to the wrong people. And I definitely remember around September, like I saw the drop. Mine wasn't that severe. I think it was probably maybe 20%. I think when I look back at like a year ago, 2 years ago, it's about 25% down from where it was, which is not nothing. But I think over the last like 2 months, mine has been going up. So I've actually been finding better engagement in the last few months. My follower growth is going significantly up. So even though my impressions are down, engagement is way up and follower count is way up. And I think it has forced me to write better content. And I think that's true of a lot of people.
It's interesting because I was just looking through my old content. I was going through and I was like running some numbers and kind of coming up with a, effects-based argument for like the sponsorship package that I sell. And yeah, my engagement has been going up, this past month or two, which is nice. But yeah, it's interesting to me because I never really know what to think of those impressions. And obviously, like there's this psychological part of you that when you see a number going up, you're like, wow, I'm very special. And then when you see it going down, you're like, well, I must not be worth anything anymore, But I still get people reaching out to me all the time who they felt something, and I guess that's the kind of thing that keeps me going. And but sometimes I just feel kind of delusional. Sometimes I don't know, like it's the opposite of caring too much about the vanity metrics. It's like, oh, well, 5 people really said I made their week this week, like how much does that actually mean? And, the more kind of cookie cutter stuff you see out there in B2B, I mean, a lot of it is just treating marketing like it's a sales process, where it's just like, hey, it's a numbers game. These processes are going to be dirty. But, just like kind of scale it as much as possible, get as much stuff out there as you can. And then, it's a numbers game. So it's like, yeah, I don't even know, like, am I an idiot for trying to go in for this really special feeling in my audience where they feel like they're part of something special?
So I remember I got sucked into the dopamine hits of it when it was really big numbers. Like it was kind of comical. Like you post something and you were seeing these crazy numbers and then you get kind of caught up in it. And then as you see a dip, you're like, oh, it's all over. Like, and it is kind of an addicting feeling. Like it's not healthy at all. But I think, so I get a little bit of schadenfreude. I'm not going to lie, that the loudest voices that I've heard complaining about their reach going down were the ones who got massive followings really early. And now I think that there's a lot of, they're just competing with newer creators who are more niche, and the generic stuff that was doing really well isn't doing really well anymore. But I also think that it depends on what your point was. Like if your goal is you want to get brand sponsorship deals because you have a giant audience and brands want to get reach to it, that's fine. I personally think that that's like an extreme exception to the rule. Like in B2C, that makes more sense. You have reached to hundreds of thousands of people in X demographic. Generally speaking, in B2B, your reach is going to need to be directly correlated with the amount that you can actually influence those people to buy. And in the really big creators, I don't necessarily think that they've got influence as much as they have the ability to reach people. Like I'm in a lucky position where I'm not that bothered about giant numbers because I have a very specific audience that I'm trying to go after. So I would much rather connect with a really small group of people and keep very consistent because I'm trying to build a reputation, not necessarily a following. So I think I'm in a different boat, but I think that reach it's overvalued if it's not paired with the right audience and a very clear fit between you and the audience.
Yeah, well, and again, it's like I can see it in other people when they get really down about their reach or their engagement or their vanity metrics, because I know some of these people, and not to pick on anybody out there, but there's a couple tactics that are just, guaranteed to get you reach, right? One is just like posting job postings.
Mhm.
You want to turn your profile into a job board, you're going to get people who are searching for jobs, and that's what a lot of creators, they get a lot of engagement on their stuff because they're like, hey, these are the companies that are hiring for this role right now. And let's try to help get some people some jobs. And you know, they get huge numbers from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Tag loads of people. Who are your
Yeah,
top creators right now? Here's 25 hidden gems that no one's ever talked about. And then they pick the top 25 people out there.
yeah, and that is the thing we've seen a lot of companies do, and it's like, hey, go follow my list of top 50 creators. Um, you look up the people who has a big following, who's blowing up this month, and you say, hey, here's my slideshow, go check out these top 50 creators, and boom, you get like huge reach. But it's like, as a guy who's been coaching this for a couple of years now, I am one struck by how much talent is out there, how many people are just, maybe they haven't done anything yet on LinkedIn, but they're a very talented writer, they're a very talented performer, they're a very talented speaker, and you get them doing some strategic content, and all of a sudden it lands, it's good, it resonates with the audience, it's funneling business into their pipeline, and then they don't get on that list of 50 top creators, and they get really bummed out, and I'm like, I know what you're doing works. Like, I've literally seen you. Like, you've literally gotten multiple promotions within your own company because the stuff you're doing is so effective at telling your story to the people you need to reach. And if you're not on somebody's top 50 creators list, that doesn't mean anything. But at the same time, I kind of want to be on all those top 50 creators.
Oh yeah, we all do. But I would go even farther than that. That I think that there's a completely incorrect assumption that just because someone's really big as a creator and has a big following, that directly correlates with how good they are at their job. And there's absolutely no truth to that. Like most of the best marketers that I've worked with never post on LinkedIn at all. And some of them roll their eyes at it. Some of them don't. Some of them are just too busy. But just because you're really popular on LinkedIn does not make you a great marketer. It makes you a great self-promoter. And that's a completely different skill set. Promoting your company and promoting yourself are not the same kind of marketing at all. And some people just don't want to. And I think that this whole idea that you keep seeing the same names getting reinforced over and over again, some of them are entirely deserving. And some of them are probably spending 90% of their time on there, and they just keep on going round and round in the same lists over and over again. And I think it to me, it's one of the evidences that LinkedIn is a social media, and social media is terrible for your self-esteem.
Yeah, I guess that I'm gonna maybe disagree with something you just said, where you're like, promoting your company is a very different thing than promoting yourself. It's like, I don't know. I've seen some companies, I'm not going to name any names here, but like companies who employed a lot of creators, and what they were doing is in many ways just kind of reinforcing their own personal brand, but they took the company along for a ride with them. And that company got lots of exposure. And then all of a sudden, when those people are gone, you don't hear anything about the company anymore. So
I'm glad you're mentioning that. So there's actually a marketing term, and I made a video about this recently. It's my favorite marketing term that I learned way back in college, which is a thing called vampire marketing. And it comes from the advertising world, where when you run ads that feature really big name celebrities, they get huge numbers, they do really well. And then when they ask the audience afterwards, everyone remembers who the celebrity was and nobody remembers who the brand was. And that's the exact same problem of tagging a bunch of creators. That's companies who decide to build their reach off the back of people who have their own brands. Exactly what happens. They bounce somewhere else and you follow them and you ignore who they were with.
it's funny because I've never heard the term vampire marketing, but we have actually used the term vampire sales on this show before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you know Nick Thickett and Morgan Smith?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So when Nick was on the show, he talked about the vampire sales rule, which is a different thing. which is you have to get invited in before you can sell. Just like in folklore, they always, that's the thing about vampires is like you have to invite them in or they can't come in. He says that's the rule you should follow on sales.
Oh, that's
like
funny.
You actually have to be in. Once they invite you in, then you can sell. But if you haven't been invited yet,
that's amazing.
It's not yet time to sell.
The marketing one is called Vampire because the celebrity ends up sucking the life out of the campaign and there's nothing left over for the brand.
Is that, are they really doing that though? Are they really doing that?
So I think they will. So like there's going to be, influencer marketing is becoming a thing, and it should be because it is a really valuable thing. But I think there's going to be a lot of people who will just think that it's a way of buying reach, but a lot of them will end up just promoting the creator themselves and they won't be remembered. Like it's a very common tactic, and I've done this myself, so I know it, where you host a podcast, you invite the top 20 people who have huge followings, you get massive numbers, and then you get them to talk about the exact thing they talked about on everybody else's podcast, and everybody remembers them. They get another video that they can promote on LinkedIn. No one is going to remember the podcast unless that there was something uniquely different about the way you crafted your message with that person. If they're only promoting themselves and there's no tie-in, then yeah, like you're just a piggyback for them.
Yeah, well, that's why I pull everybody into my stupid sketch comedy. Because my whole thing has been like, I want it to be difficult to copy me. And that's kind of the whole ethos behind improv is like you're walking in there with nothing. There's nothing on the stage. Nothing is real. Everything comes back to the audience and what they give you. And the fact that you are creating something with them and that they kind of end up being a part of it, that's what people remember about it. And it's like, yeah, you create this thing where it's like, I don't remember a single thing that they said, but I remember how it made me feel. I always say if you look back, I had somebody who came to Second City once to check out a show. They were visiting Chicago. And the first thing they asked was, where's all the celebrities? And I'm like, there's no celebrities here. Chris Farley wasn't Chris Farley back when he was at Second City. He was that big fat maniac. People would watch the show and they'd be like, I can't even explain this guy. He was this guy and he was screaming about a band down the river. And it was the funniest thing I've seen in my life. And I can't even tell you what it was, and it really has this vibe of like, you had to be there. And that's why I always pull people into like a weird sketch with me to just see like what becomes of this. And it's like, sometimes they get huge engagement. Sometimes they don't. But if I send one to people and I'm like, oh yeah, I had that person on my show. Here's what we did together. It's like really fascinating. And it's this really interesting relic of this thing that only me and them could make together.
Yeah. And then sometimes LinkedIn goes down for an hour, 10 minutes after you post the video promoting it.
Oh my God. Can we just talk about for a minute? Like we got to do like this Irish folktale sketch. And it's like, is that, I don't know if like, well, I can't say, I don't know if that's like, if I do my comedy well enough, it inbounds, right? I sell things from my digital store, or people reach out to me for coaching opportunities or guesting opportunities. But yeah, what was your feelings being asked to do a comedy sketch? Were you pretty comfortable with that? Were you nervous at all?
I mean, if you were there watching me film it, like you gave me a script, I knew what I was going to say. There was a little bit of room for improv in there. And I was just like putting facial expressions on a camera. Like there's footage that didn't get used of me looking deeply offended. And I was just sitting in the middle of a woods feeling genuinely insane for a couple of minutes. But it was fun. It was a completely different experience.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, so if you had to give advice to somebody out there, like, say you were somebody who was doing an okay job marketing yourself. You've been putting content on LinkedIn for a couple of years. You got really dispirited sometime around September. Your stuff is just not working as well as it used to. Like, what advice do you give people?
I mean, I'll tell you the advice that I gave myself, which was like step back and figure out like what exactly am I trying to accomplish here? Because that is important. For a while there, it was the best advice a year and a half ago was show up, post every day, and that's all you need to do, and it'll totally work. And then like people started getting like there were tricks, and suddenly it was selfies. Now it's selfies again. But then like somewhere along the lines, I started to think about like, okay, numbers aside, what am I trying to accomplish here? Now, for me, I had a very specific idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to try and communicate so that if people had never heard of me, they would hear me talking about marketing and go, I think he knows what he's talking about. That's a very sensible approach. Like I wanted to try and be thoughtful. I wanted my content to not feel like it was trying to get likes, but that it was just a well-formed opinion. I have this belief that as the algorithm gets harder and harder to try and game, then what ends up working is you just have to assume that the best thing you can do is find your particular voice as quickly as you can and be as genuinely authentic in your content as you possibly can. So for me, I did not want to do hot takes. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. It's not who I am. I don't like trashing other people's marketing. I'm not going to post pictures of my son because I don't really want to. So like, I knew that was not the kind of thing, and I didn't want to do things to get likes. I wanted to stand by the content that I made and said I would put my badge of approval on that. If that was published in an article in a magazine, I would be proud of that. And that was the best advice that I could give, because it made me figure out like, what am I actually interested in talking about, as opposed to what do I think other people are interested in reading. I'm trying to remember, there was an artist, I'm killing me, I can't remember who it was, but he was doing an interview where he said, I do not make art for other people. I make art for myself, and I hope that resonates with other people. The second I start making art for other people, I am now trying to be popular. I'm trying to find what you want me to be, and then I lose whatever it was that I had in the first place.
It's funny. I'm reading Oscar Wilde, and he said that all art is worthless.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with a better Irishman than me. I will say what I did do right that I think I'm not saying everyone needs to do this, but Rick Rubin, that was it. Exactly. Thank you, Todd. Like the thing that I realized that at a certain point, the algorithm was not even the algorithm, the feed is busy. And the hardest thing to do in marketing is to stand out. And the easiest way to do that is to find something unique about you that people are familiar with. Now, in my case, I knew how to use a camera. I had a woods nearby, and I thought, hey, that would be a funny kind of a hook. Maybe that'll be the kind of hook that makes you go, there's that weird guy in the woods. But then the message that I deliver would hopefully make you go, but it was worth sticking around for. That can come in a writing style. Maybe you're the one who writes really long form content and everybody else is doing short broetry, double line spacing type content. Like, as long as you have something that becomes familiar, marketing is all about familiarity and repetition. You have to be able to see it and go, oh, there's that one again. I recognize that style.
Yeah, I know I'm not famous yet, because the thing about being famous is everybody knows your name and nobody knows my name yet. But in some cases, I have reached that guy status where like they don't know my name, but they're like, oh, I've seen that guy on something before, and I think he's funny. And like, I've actually, if you search like sales sketch comedy on LinkedIn, I pop right up, So there are people who know what I do who don't actually know me, but they know that like I can do funny things, and that's part of what I am. I'm gonna maybe speak in why not, just for the sake of fun, let's talk about the positives of chasing trends. I'm gonna give you one example that I think everybody on LinkedIn was unfair about, that completely changed the way I do my content strategy, and that is polls. So
okay,
about 3 years ago, LinkedIn was like, hey, why don't we make everybody do polls? And they really incentivized, they're like, here's this new polling feature. You can put a poll out there, and we're just going to make sure everybody sees them. There was this period of time where all you saw on LinkedIn was polls. Everybody was posting polls. And immediately people got furious about it. Immediately people were just full of rage. And you'd scroll through and every poll would be like, don't you hate polls? Response 1, I hate polls. Response 2, I like polls. And it was polls about polls. And then everybody was like, God, this was stupid. Let's never do this again. And me at the time, I was a guy who was starting my own business. So I'm like, oh, polls. Okay, I'll ask a poll question about something interesting. And it just became a regular part of what I do. To this day, even for this episode, I made a poll that was just like, hey, did you see a dip in your organic reach last September? Most people said yes, but I was looking through those numbers, and back in the day, I would get like 700 or 1,100 poll responses, which is nuts. If you're a political pollster, you're not getting anything near that by, trying to get responses from people. But even today, even after this drop in organic reach, sometimes my polls will get 200, 300, 400 responses, And to me, that's crazy. And I always say, when I'm advising my clients, when I'm putting together a content strategy for them, I go out there and ask a question that you don't actually know the answer to, or go ask a question where there is, convincing answers on both sides. And when you do that, you see great responses from that. And, I will always ask a question about every upcoming event I have. Sometimes I'll get hundreds of responses on it. I send all those people an invite to the event. Like, to me, those are hand raisers. Those are people saying, I'm interested in this topic. I'm going to engage with this topic. But I talk to creators who are like, oh yeah, remember polls? Like, glad those are done. And I'm like, well, anything can be useful if you're thoughtful about it, I guess.
That's a really interesting take. I had never thought of it that way, because I was definitely annoyed by it, but I was annoyed by it because I think there were too many people who were using it to ask questions we all knew the answers to that were more about engagement bait. And I was like, do you hate cold calling? Because they knew it would just tap into something visceral and everybody would leap on stuff like that. That, I think, was what annoyed me about it, was that it got used as I know how to game this, as opposed to I can use this to actually have an engaged back and forth with an audience.
Interesting. Yeah. I remember one of the biggest ones that blew up was it was a debate, and it was a poll question like, can anybody learn to be funny, or is it just something you either have or you don't? Like, can comedy be learned? And questions like that work really well because people have very strong opinions. And yeah, the polls that do best for my brand are the ones where the most popular answer is the answer that I disagree with. Everybody was like, oh, no, like either you're funny or you're not. And then that was a springboard. Then I started making content about like, hey, my network says that comedy can't be learned, and here's why they're wrong. Here's why I know professional comedians that I don't even think are funny. It's because comedy is a formula and it can be learned. But yeah, I still use polls. I still stand by polls. They still have like an incredible amount of value to me. Isaac here, no, it wasn't Isaac. It was Owen. So Owen asked about this trend, the top voice thing, a gimmick. So I want to throw this to Liam, but first I want to clarify. There's two top voice things we could be talking about. One is a process where LinkedIn chooses you. LinkedIn has human beings involved that determine, hey, this influencer, we think that they're a top voice. We're going to give them some money. We're going to give them our official endorsement. We're going to give them some perks. They're an official LinkedIn creator. And then there are these AI-generated these articles going around where they put a prompt and they're like, hey, Liam, you've been selected to contribute to this AI-based article on marketing. And if you complete enough of those, you get a top voice badge that's yellow. That's like an unofficial one. So yeah, what do you think of that? Is that the gimmick of right now? And how does it make you feel?
I think the moment has passed on it, personally. I mean, it is a gimmick, but doesn't mean it wasn't worth doing. And it doesn't mean that the people who are more passive on LinkedIn don't know that you got it by filling out 10 prompts on an AI-generated answer portal. It's still social proof. It still looks good. So, like, it's not... To say there's no value in it would be completely wrong. I think there's definitely value in doing it. Was it a gimmick? Yeah, of course it was. It absolutely was. But, I think it's one of those ones where it's kind of like the difference between a TED Talk and TEDx. Like, TEDx ruined the TED Talk brand because it turns out anybody could do a TEDx talk. And now you never hear about TED Talks anymore. So I think there's a little bit of a danger for LinkedIn to saturate the market with top voices.
Well, and they also just might be taking the content. Like...
I've seen some of the questions. It is maybe they're training an AI algorithm. It seems like they are, because most of those kind of like suggested questions and answers seem to come from AI generated sources. I think it explicitly says so, and some of them are weird. So I maybe they're gaming all of us, and we're all just training their algorithm to replace us as content creators. If so, good for them.
Yeah, again, my thing is I kind of feel like the storyteller is a really important part of this whole equation that AI leaves out. And, um, you know, like the reason why someone is telling a story is very important. And that's what gets lost in AI. And yeah, I don't know. Again, I shit on AI a lot in this show because it just makes me feel like crap, honestly. It just drains me. Just scrolling through AI makes me feel terrible about humanity. It feels exhausting to me. There's something so soulless about it.
I'm impressed by the technology, and I'm depressed by seeing the fact that like 700 people at Klarna got fired for an AI chatbot straight away. So like AI is coming for our jobs in some capacity or another, and I'm a little depressed about that. I'm not going to lie. I'd rather not contribute to it for as long as I can get away with it.
But even then, it's like people will be like, oh, well, in the future, we're just going to watch AI generated movies. And I'm like, that sounds awful. Like, that sounds, all the great movies that I love are great because, there's some irreplaceable quality about the director or the screenwriter or the actor, like the example uh, I love is like Harrison Ford in the original Star Wars movies. Nobody could ever give a performance like that because he was actually embarrassed by it. He thought it was a silly movie. He thought it was a stupid space movie that he was too good to be a part of. And he kind of had that attitude of like, I'm cooler than this project. This is kind of beneath me. And it worked. It was just perfect for the role. And now anybody who goes up there to be Han Solo is somebody who grew up idolizing that character and wanting to be part of it. And there's just something missing from the originals that can't be replicated. And I don't know, the better AI gets, the more it just still feels kind of soulless to me.
I'm sure there's a point at which it's going to be so convincing that it will be as good or better than a lot of what most people can create. It's not there yet, but that's just not as fun. Like, who cares? That doesn't seem like a great future at all. That's dystopian.
Yeah, and it's like, CGI is pretty amazing. I still think the Frank Oz puppets are more convincing. Like when the puppet Yoda died, I was like so sad, and like when CGI Yoda is flipping around doing a million acrobatics, I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Liam, I could talk to you about this stuff all day, but unfortunately we have reached the end of the show. So do you want to just throw it out to the audience one more time? If they want to connect with you, where should they go?
If you do, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I create a lot of content on there. If it's interesting to you, I would love to get a follow.
Do it. He's a super fun guy. He's videos are super interesting, and I just like, as I was editing the video clips you sent me, I realized that the background noises in your little enchanted meadow are so soothing.
They're quite legitimate too.
Yeah, go check out Liam online. You can scan that barcode there. Also, if you want more Chris Sells His Soul, you should subscribe to the podcast. So we have a lot of fun with these live episodes. We do these live, but I actually edit and put a lot of work into the audio episodes. So the audio episodes, they move faster. They are a fun listen. And you can check out Chris Sells His Soul wherever you get podcasts. So you can go ahead, scan that QR code up there if you want to subscribe to Chris Sells His Soul on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. And once again, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Flying Cat. So Flying Cat is the premier SEO and content creation agency. If you are trying to grow your B2B SaaS business, and especially if you want to scale into Europe, do it with a smart, organic marketing strategy that's actually written and conducted in the native language that you're selling into, right? You're going to miss a lot of nuances. Work with marketers who understand the language is 90% women. They are all smart and cool and funny. That's why they advertise on this show. So if you want to talk to Flying Cat, go ahead, scan that QR code. Stay tuned next week. Next Friday, I'm going to be sending out invites. But it's the premiere of Death by PowerPoint. So the new show, we've got two great guests, Jen Allen Knuth and Rob Jones. Don't miss that, and we will see you soon.